motionless, without any action, and that stillness will slowly adding up, and no distraction will fade out. You may keep your mind centered by visualize the image of the sun turning so bright. Feel the presence of the warm, bright, shining sun radiating from within, where you can be one with the warm, bright sun. Allow your mind to deeply immerse with the warm brightness, and let's stay still with that feeling of peace for a while. Be soft, be gentle with the stillness of the mind.สัพเพพุทธาภลปตาปเจตานันจะยังพลังอรหันตานันจะเตเชนะระกังกันธามิสัพพโสสัพพพุทธานุภาเวนะสัพพธัมมานุภาเวนะสัพพสังฆานุภาเวนะสัทธาโสติภะวันตุเต
May I pay my deepest respect to the Triple Gems and the Great Masters. May I pay respect to all the senior monks and all venerables. Good evening, all participants. Welcome to our 13th day of this certificate program, Pali Chanting with English translations, on this commemoration of Vesak Day and a celebration of the 81st year of Luang Por Dhammachayo. Today, we begin our explorations of one of Buddhism's most foundational chants, the Dhammacakkappavattanasutta, the discourse on setting the wheel of Dhamma in motion. And over the next 3 days, we will immerse ourselves in the Buddha's first sermon. This discourse holds unparalleled significance in Buddhism, as it contains the Buddha's first teaching after his enlightenment, establishing the foundation for all Buddhist traditions. Learning to chant this sutta connects us directly to this key moment in Buddhist history. The words we learn today have been preserved and recited more than a billion times by countless practitioners over the past 2,600 years, creating a continual lineage of transmission from the Buddha's time to our generations. And for this last week, our program, we are honored to welcome Venerable Passcode to guide us through Dhammacakkappavattanasutta. He brings an exceptional perspective to our program. His unique journey from business manager, Thai Airways crew, to over 19 years of monastic life with teaching missions, workshops, and retreats across over 80 countries around the world, provides him with profound insights into making Dhamma accessible to all walks of life. He currently is member of Advisory Board of Division of International Organizations, Wat Phra Thammakaya, and member of Advisory Board and Dhamma teacher of the Peace Revolution Project. And with sincere respect and gratitude, please welcome Venerable Pasura Tantamano to begin our lecture of this Buddha's first sermon. May I invite all the participants or the lay participants to pay respect to the teaching monk. Bow, bow, bow. ขอกราบอาราธนาพระอาจารย์กับนิมนต์และขอกราบอาราธนาพระอาจารย์นำบูชาพระครับ
Let us pay respect to the tradition all together. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅgho Saṅghang Namami Antamayang Buddhassa Bhagavato Buddhapaka Namakarang Karomase Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. I would like to start by extending my humble respect to all the senior monks who presented here. And good evening, everyone. So for the next 3 days, we're going to take this journey together to learn more about the Dhammacakkappavattanasutta, which is, of course, as the host just explained, the importance and significance of this sutra. It is the first teachings of the Buddha, which also laid out the foundation of it all. So that is why every single time we can always trace the root of the Dhamma back here to this sutra. So, since the theme of this program is to learn about Pali chanting. So the way I'm going to conduct the next 3 days of the learning of the sutras will be just passage by passage translation, and I will go down on the meaning of the words, what are they explaining about, so that whenever we recite the chanting of this sutta, we will be more appreciative of the wordings when we realize the significance of the definitions, the meanings, and how immensely profound the teachings really is. So let me start by sharing the screen. All right. So as we already know that the Dhammacakkappavattanasutta is what so-called the first teachings of the Buddha. But not only that is the first teaching, it is also basically like a master plan, because it is simply said that the whole Buddhist philosophy can be just dialed down to this very sutta, or in the other words, what is taught here in the concept of the Four Noble Truth is one of the most explained in the whole Buddha's life of teachings. Whenever he met many people after his enlightenment, he will usually start by explaining or giving the answer to what those people have been curious or have been missing out. And once they started to understand based on what the Buddha explanation, if those people have the ability to attain enlightenment, the Buddha will add up by explaining the whole Four Noble Truth, which will end up allowing them to attain the fully enlightened. So that is why the Four Noble Truth, which is explained in Dhammacakkappavattanasutta for the very first time, is really the condensed, bring it down to really the core of the whole Buddhist teaching. So that's why it's called like the foundation of it. Since the first time it was explained, at the end, the completion of Triple Gem came about. That was because after the Buddha gave this first teaching, they end up already have the first enlightened monk, and we all know him as Anya Kontanya. And he realized that noble truth, which is the truth that is called noble. The reason that it is called noble because when a person attains enlightenment, in Pali we call aseka pukkala or ariya pukkala, which means a person, aseka means one who is no longer a learner. So he already complete his learning or his practices. Ariya means the one who realized at least the lowest of the Four Noble Path. And that is actually what it means by maintaining the being noble, either aseka or ariya. And because of the first enlightened person after the Buddha gave the first teaching and became a monk, that is basically the beginning of the whole Triple Gem that we usually say that as a Buddhist, we take refuge in the Triple Gem. So the origin, of course, reflecting on the profoundness. To understand the origin, it's actually good to go back to the historical part of it, because that's where it is kind of important out there. So after the Buddha enlightened, the Buddha actually realized that the Dhamma that he discovered, he has enlightened, was very profound until most people would not be able to comprehend it. So there was actually a part that Buddha decided maybe he shouldn't be giving this teaching because it's too hard. But then eventually the Buddha decided to comparing the human beings, or the realms of sentient beings, into 4 levels of lotus. The first level is the lotus right under the pond. So he compared that to a human with a lot of defilements and very hard to turn themselves around and become a good person. Then the second level is the one that's still under the water. He compared that these are the people who still have a chance for the development of the mind as long as they are able to find good friends, or what we call Kalyana Mitra, noble friend or true friend. The third level is the one that already sort of at the surface of the water. So he compared that to people who sort of have the moral and ethics in their mind and have a capability to develop themselves further to be better. And of course, the last one, the one who rise off above the water. So that these are the person who fully ethical, fully moral, and in line with the Buddhist teachings. So he considered that there are some levels of people who are able to comprehend the teachings that he has discovered. So, and that's why he followed it out there. When the Buddha left the palace, he did start by following his two teachers, Alalatappasa and Uttakattapasa. In that way, he already attained what is called form absorptions or rupajhana, or form-based absorption or arupajhana, which is the attainment of the meditative stage. They actually wanted him to teach on their behalf because he already exhausted all of the knowledge. But the Buddha also realized at the time that this was not the way, that he actually could eliminate all defilements completely or end all these sufferings. So the Buddha decided to continue his journey, and he met his 5 disciples. And then from there on, he started to practice. During the time, of course, the practice that was very famous is self-modification. So he spent time practicing there until he realized it was not the way. So he renounced the method and decided to take his journey on his own. Once he are able to discover the middle path, attain enlightenment, he thought, who could be the student that will be able to comprehend it? So the first students that he thought about was the two of the hermits that he studied with before he enlightened. But he found that both of them just passed away, so he couldn't reach them. So the next group was the 5 disciples that he has been practicing with them. So he went to them. Upon the arrival of him, they thought that, this Siddhartha ascetic who gave up the practice of self-modification came back to us because he couldn't be on his own. So at first, the 5 students agreed with each other that we will not get up to receive him. We will just ignore him. But because of the habit, they couldn't. The moment that he came closer, the Buddha came closer, they would just went around, set up his seat, gave him water, sort of, giving the proper welcome. But still kind of talked out on him, kind of talking like he's a junior. For 3 times, the Buddha said, you shouldn't have talked to me like that. I have discovered what we have been devoting our life for. And after the 3rd time, the 5 disciples decided to, he usually never said things like this. So there must be something very important in that. And that's the beginning of the whole Dhammacakkappavattanasutta. The first part in the teachings, normally, since all the chantings or the sutta in Buddhism came from after the Buddha enlightened, and the enlightenment compiled in the council, so it was made in the way that can easily memorize. And that's why each beginning of the sutta will mention where it was and who did the Buddha taught to. That's actually why each time at the beginning when we read the actual sutta, we will notice that it mentioned place and person that was mentioned to. Unlike the regular chanting that you have been experienced for the past month, that most of the time it was pieces or a recompilation of different passages from Tipitaka. When it comes to the whole sutta, it will be in this format. So in this sense, thus I have heard, which means heard from the Buddha, that one time in the Varanasi, the city of Varanasi, in the game refuge Isipatana. Isipatana came from 2 words. The first word, Isipatana, means a residence of hermits. Mikataya means a residence of deers. So that's why when you see in front of the many other temples, you will see the symbols of wheels, which is chakra, setting the emotions, and 2 deers, which is all resemble the meanings of the Dhammacakkappavattanasutta. So that's why it's called the game refuge in the Sipatana Murukataya one, or the place where they don't hunt these deer, since they belong to many ascetics practicing in the cultivation. And in the city of the Varanasi, which is a very significant, the timeline that Buddha came to this point after enlightened on the full moon of the 6th month. The Buddha spent 7 weeks after enlightenment examining all the profound discovery of his enlightenment. There were stories that he studied from under the Bodhi tree. He moved to a few places around him for 7 weeks. After the completion, he looked for who should be the one to receive the teaching. And then the last week, he set his journey to meet them. So this is what it looked like. This is actually where the Buddha spent his lifetime on around. There is one from Kamilavastu up here in the north. Then he set his journey all the way down. Here is where he's enlightened in Bodh Gaya. This is the city of Varanasi. So the place that is actually was where he gave the first teaching is that actually in the Varanasi is basically sort of at the border of the city, which is known today as Saranath. So that is actually where it is. And the distance between Bodh Gaya to Saranath is roughly about 300 kilometers. So this is where the Buddha spent his 1 week traveling, walking basically from this point in Bodh Gaya all the way to Saranath. Of course, this is the modern road that I use the Google map to find. So in those days, the journey will not be along this road. It should be some other types of trail. But that's the journey the Buddha took from here all the way to Saranath. This is actually the area that you see that is right by the border between Kosala and Makata. The two main of the region in those days, two main kingdoms in those days. Kosala is one of the major kingdoms at the time, and it's also basically overpowered Kapilavastu, which is the city where the Buddha was born. Magadha was an older kingdom. And this is actually where the Buddha spent most of his lifetime, because Savatthi, the capital city of Kosala, is where two of the main temples in Buddhism are, Shetavana and Anathapupparama temples. So these are the two temples that the Buddha spent most vasa, moderate retreats in. So that's the whole area of the lifetime. Interesting fact about Varanasi is that it has always been a very significant city of spiritual development, spiritual practice of different kinds. Up until now, if you get the chance to go to India, you will see a lot of people from Brahmanism, Hinduism. Every 12 years, there was a major gathering of different ascetics of different kinds, still practicing some modifications, just like in the Buddha time. They would gather here every 12 years with a huge gathering. So to even one extent that Varanasi, in fact, is a place that the Buddha only come as close, but he only spent around here. The Buddha actually went to teach here in Gosampi, in Yoriya, Saket, and many other cities, but he never really entered Varanasi. So that actually how this city is actually full, very vibrant of the different ascetic practice. So today, the still Dhammika Stupa was constructed in honor and recollections of the Buddha's teachings. So this is where it was given. The next part of the sutras explain that he addressed to the group of 5 monks. So the group of 5 monks comprised of Gontanya, Patiya, Wappa, Asachi, and Mahanama. The first one, we know him very well, Gontanya, because he is actually quite significant. He was actually a Brahmin. So in the time the Buddha was born, after 5 days, his father, King Suttotana, invited 108 Brahmins to his palace, because he wanted these Brahmins to give prophecy about his son, how his son will grow up to be. So after 108 received the offerings of the food, they were actually very, expert in making prophecy based on a person's appearance. So from 108, it boiled down to just 8 Brahmins. And Gontanya at the time was the youngest of the 8. He was part of it. So among the 8 of the Brahmins who gave the prophecies that how the Siddhartha will grow up to be, 7 of them made a prediction, from his feature, for the Siddhartha features, that he has only 2 destinies on him. The first one, he will grow up to be a great king. He will rule the whole, area. He will be the universal monarch. And second, if he chooses to ordain, he will become the Buddha. However, Gontanya was the only one out of the 8 who said there's only one path for this boy. He couldn't be anything else. He only will grow up to be the Buddha. And that's make him different from the other 8. So afterward, he actually, after made the prophecy, he came back and he started to prepare himself for when this boy will grow up and left the palace. He was waiting for 29 years because after the predictions, it takes 29 years until Prince Siddhartha left the palace. So he actually spent 29 years preparing himself, waiting from the young Brahmin become the oldest one at the time. So when Prince Siddhartha left the palace and ordained, he went around to the sons of the other 7 Brahmins. Only 5 of them still remain. So that 4 of them still remain, so become this Panchavakki, or the first 5 disciples of groups of monks that came with him. And that's why during the time, they actually spending the time in Uruvela and Anikom together with ascetic Siddhartha or Gautama in order to practice. So 6 years they had been practicing together but still couldn't realize any teachings, and that's why they decided to leave him when the Buddha realized that none the extreme way is the right path. When Siddhartha gave up the practice of self-purification because he realized that it doesn't lead to any place, then they left him. So all of these, we probably heard some names mentioned throughout the time. Gontanya was mentioned only the first time and roughly a few times afterward in the whole Tipitaka. The other one that is quite interesting is Asachi, because we probably know more about the 2 main disciples of the Buddha, Sariputta and Moggallana. One is specialized in wisdom. Basically, his wisdom is second to only to the Buddha, and Moggallana with all these, special power that he obtained. So Asachi was actually the one who was a teacher to Sariputta at the time. Sariputta and Moggallana were just 2 men who took ordinations, who took practice from other beliefs, and they couldn't realize the whole truth, so they went out to seek other teacher, and they split in different parts. Before splitting, they made agreement to each other that if any of them discover the knowledge first, they will share to each other. So on the way, they saw Asachi, who was just there, walking for arms round, and he saw Asachi as an enlightened one, looked very calm and modest. So he got very curious and came to ask, "Oh, who's your teachers? And what have you learned? Could you teach me about it?" And as humble as Asachi was, he said, "I am only a new monk. I'm only just recently ordained because that was very beginning of the Buddhism. I haven't learned much from my master. I only know one passage, and that exact passage is actually in the Dhammacakkappavattanasutta. And upon hearing that passage, Sariputta attained the first stage of enlightenment. He was very happy. He went to his friend, said exact same passage to his friend, and Moggallana also attained enlightenment. And then both of them came to the Buddha afterward. So this is actually one significant aspect of Asachi enlightened Arahant. So for me, this is interesting because the same passage that Sariputta has listened only one time, or Moggallana listened even, from his friend just one time. Both of them attained stream enterer, the first state of enlightenment. I have been reciting, we have been reciting for what, billions of times, according to the record that we have at the temple. We're still here. So that's interesting, huh? Anyway, there are two extreme paths that does not or should not be practiced by the one who is gone forth. Papachita is the word that refers to the one who has gone forth. Papachita is actually the terms that refer to this one, the one who renounced the worldly life. So there are a few words in Buddhism when we refer to monks in English. The first one is Papachita, which is a one who choose the lifestyle that renounce the engagement with worldly life, having house, having families, working for food. So that actually indulging in all the sensual pleasure or worldly entertainment. So that is actually the meaning of Papachita. So that's why if anyone choose, to pursue that path to renounce the worldly life, the two extreme way that Buddha will explain are not for the one who choose to, pursue the path of spiritual life. The second one that we usually use to refer monks is one who lives by alms, which means a person who actually base their lifestyle or base their livelihood from what they're receiving, what their people are giving to them. So that is the word bhikkhu. The other one that is used very many times as a way to reference to the monk is samana. Samana means the one who at peace, or the one whose defilements or kilesa is ceased. Or at least during the time I'm breaking my way towards the cessation of defilements. So the other word is samana. Although three of them may have slight different meanings in terms of the way it's explained different aspects of monk's life, but in general it comes down to the same thing, that in order to attain the state of peace where defilement is ceased, it had to start by not engaging in the worldly lifestyle, and living by alms is another aspect of that part. So that's the meaning of it. So the next part, when we do the chanting of the Yo Jayang Kame Sukama Sukhaladika Yuyoko, this is actually one of the extremes practice. Kama, which means sensual pleasure. So the whole part means devoted to seeking pleasure from the sensual objects, which are things that make us pleased from what we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. So form, sound, smell, taste, touch, all this is sensual pleasure. So they were practicing certain time in those days that believe that if we keep bombarding our senses, with good smell, good taste, good touch, and finally the moksha or mokkha will emerge for us to discover. You have to kind of think back in the context of 2,600 years ago, where there were many types of practice, and all of them wanted to reach one thing. They don't know what it is. They believe in the cycle of rebirth. They know that there must be the end of all sufferings and the end of the cycle, but they don't know how to get there and what it looked like. So they employ different methods in order to seek that attainment. Number of them, starting from this one, engagement in all types of sensual pleasure. So when it's being bombarded, they believe this so-called mokkha or moksha in Sanskrit and Pali will emerge. So that state of liberation is what all these ascetics, these practitioners were looking for. So all of these bombarding from sense, which actually can explain into types of sukha or happiness or pleasure in Buddhism. In Buddhism, we refer to two main types of pleasure. The first one belongs to the house order, which is samisa sukha, pleasure from senses. And this is actually why most of the time human beings confuse the concept of happiness from true happiness to what we only can depend on from sensual pleasure. I usually explain in a simple way like this, that we mostly confuse true happiness from convenience, fun, pleasure, and gratification. If you see the difference between these two, or all these what I explained, the concept of happiness that we should refer to is the one that is not dependent on anything, person, places, object, situation. It doesn't require me to go anywhere, to do anything, to have any extra items, or to be in certain kind of pleasant time that make me feel elated or gratifying. So that is actually samisa sukha, pleasure from senses. Since they are dependent, they come and they go. We cannot always expect to have them. Sometimes we can have them, sometimes it's gone. And that's why a lot of time, most human beings will feel they have that hole or empty space or feeling hungry the whole time, try to fill the void inside their mind, inside their heart, because they were looking for the samisa sukha or pleasure from senses. Because of the confusion, people cannot really understand the point that it's actually true happiness must be free from engagement in the sensual pleasure or sensual desire. And that is why when the Buddha explained this, Kama Sukha Ladikari Yogo, he tried to explain that in order to reach that goal, this pleasure is not something we should indulge, we should engage, should devote ourselves to. So, of course, don't forget that this is the passage when he talked to the 5 disciples, right? The group of 5 monks. They were practicing with him. They were practicing self-mortification with him for 6 years. These are really, tough crowd. So he need to explain to them, the difference between each of that. But for us, of course, we still live in the world. For some of you, still having family and all that. What I really to point out is that to understand at least the concept of happiness, that is not about what we can depend on, but what we can reach inside, so that when we can find that happiness without this state of sensual pleasure, that was true happiness is like. And he also explained the features of this, indulgent in sensual pleasure. In these words, hino, kamo, poto, shaniko, anariyo, anatasantiko. This is actually the one that we chant. Hino means low, lowly, kind of disgusted types. It was explained that it's like a dead body or a corpse. So the point is that the practice of this is kind of lowly and disgusted. It's like we engaging, indulging ourselves with the dead body. And that is why it's not something that we should be practiced. Kammo, kamawasi, just like, this is the word city. Or the other word in this context means it leads to become a householder, which means backing away from the path of the one who renounced the worldly life. Remember at the beginning when I said the word papachita, the one who's gone forth means the one who renounced worldly life. So kammo is actually backtracking to be the one who going to be householder. Potochaniko refer to belongs. This is the practice that is for someone who still have defilements in the mind. So defilements, which are, we explain later, are the one that drive them to constantly seeking the sensual pleasure. And because of these 3, is not for the nobles, anariyo. Remember at the beginning when I talk about the Ariya Pukala, Ariya is the same word as here. So not for the nobles, not for the one who will enlighten or who enlightened. And that it does not bring any benefits. The last one is very interesting, anatta sanhito, when it said it doesn't bring any benefits. We spend a lifetime, trying to get things that we please. We like our food or our clothes or a place that we go, people that we are with, but it doesn't bring any other benefits. It's only make us forget about realization of this noble truth. That is actually what I want to explain when it comes to the Kama Sukhalika Nuyog, or indulgent in the sensual pleasure. That leads to the second one. There is another one. This is called self-mortification or self-afflictions of pain. Atakilamata Nuyoko. So we still have these days a number of the sects in India that still practice different types of self-mortification. They will hurt themselves. They will torture the body in different forms in order to in those days they believe that if we are squeezing ourselves, like pushing very hard to the extreme, And finally, to the part that we cannot bear it anymore, we will be able to let that moksha or that liberation emerge. So that was the belief in those days. And it widely practiced at the time, and even not just to, in the Buddha time, because today, like I explained to you, that in Varanasi, there was still gathering of people like this. I still look up on Google, they still exist there. So the practice still up until today. And the Buddha explained that the self-modification which they were practicing at the time, and the Buddha also engaged with this too for 6 years. First of all, tukkho, it caused suffering to the practitioner. It caused pain. Secondly, and because of that, it does not lead or does not belong to nobles or the one who will, reach the state of enlightenment and bring no benefits at all. So the Buddha made conclusion not only that it is painful for what you go through, it doesn't really bring what you're looking for. So wasting your time with that. And this is actually what the Buddha experienced himself, when he practicing any of this. There were 3 things that the Buddha practiced during those 6 years of self-modification. The first one, he pressed his tongue, his teeth, the upper and lower part of the teeth, pressed them together very, very strongly, or pressed his tongue on the palate, on the roof of the mouth, very strongly until he's sweating very, very hard. He didn't get it. Then he moved to the second method, which is holding the breath until it was to the part that almost exploded, almost a head exploded. And of course, the last one, the starvation, so reduction of the food consumption. So he's slowly reducing number of food consumptions to just a few nuts until finally completely starve himself. As we could see, many Buddha statues with this, very skinny feature. It was said at the time that when he touched the belly, he could feel his spine. So that's the level of the practice that Buddha has experienced by himself before. And he said that, he realized at the verge of almost death that this was not the way. And that's why he gave up. And that is why when the group of 5 monks saw that, thought, oh, why did he give up? He must not wanted to devote himself to the practice anymore that left him. And that leads to what they explain later. And this is actually quite interesting because this is what the Buddha make different from what he has said before to this group of 5 monks, that avoid the extremes. The middle part, Majjhima Patipatha, is actually what I have realized by myself. The Buddha, this part, making an affirmation that I have discovered this by myself. That through the middle part, it leads to Chakku, or seeing, or insight, Jnana, or knowledge, Upasamaya, calmness, Apiññāya, direct knowledge, Sampodhaya, self-awakening, Nibbanaya, liberation, or nirvana. So this actually the whole condense about the significance of the middle way. Because when the Buddha said this, I have tried both ways. I have lived my life 29 years in the palace. My father bombarded me with all the pleasure I could imagine about. I still couldn't get anything. I left the palace, spent 6 years in extreme practice of self-modification. I still got nothing at all. Through the middle part, I realized it opened my eyes to find the knowledge. This passage is about. It opened my eyes to realize the knowledge. And because of realization of that knowledge, it made me feel calm. It made us calm, or the other, it make him detached from holding on to what is not. And that opened up the knowledge. From that knowledge, awakening is to awaken from defilements until that defilement is completely eradicated. And that is the liberation. So the whole part that really talks about the result of the middle way or Majjhima Patipatha is actually right here. From the vision to knowledge. So from the vision, The word Chakku literally translates as eyes. Eyes. In the Buddhist terms, there are different different types of Chakku or different of eyes or seeing. The first one, this is our eyes, Mangsa Chaksu, or physical eyes. This is the one that we see physically. But then there are Tipa Chakku, divine eyes or celestial eyes. This is actually one of the supernatural ability when Buddha explained that he attained apinyaya. One of the apinyaya is Tipachakku, or being able to see the past lives of others, how this being came about, what kind of karma that caused him to be here. So Tipachakku allowed him to see the cause and effect of the law of karma. Panyachakku, which actually refer to seeing the whole insight and understanding of the Dhamma, all the way to Puttachakku, the eyes of all Buddhas when it's free completely from ignorance, and Samanta Chaksu. Samanta means all around, means like imagine if you see, when you see object, you see like my hand, you only see either in front of my hand or back of my hand, right? Samanta Chaksu basically means all around. It can either refer to all angles at one time, or all aspect of knowledge, depends on how you take it as abstract terms or non-abstract terms. Another part that interesting, and this is what the great master Luang Pu, Luang Pu, Primal Contemporary explained. He used the word Dhammacakku a lot, and that actually the eyes of the Dhammakaya, the eyes of the not the eyes of the inner bodies that are already beyond the physical part, the Lokuttara path, and from the Dhammakaya eyes, we are able to go to see the past lives, and all this is coming from the realization. And that is why the Dhammacakkappavattanasutta is not just for us to obtain through meditations and be able to see different things, but it's also come with realization of different Dhamma, the truth. The term Dhamma actually translated as the truth. All the ascetics I was explaining about so far, what have they been searching for? Throughout his history, all the religions across the board, what have they been looking for? They are looking for the truth, the answer. Because when we are born in this world, we don't know anything at all. Why are we here? Where are we from? What do we have to do? Where are we going to go? We have no answer to none of these questions. So every practice of any kind are about for just one thing, finding out the answer of our existence, so that we know what to do and we can end what caused us all these sufferings. And this has always been, basically the core part of our human history, searching for the truth. If you look across all, belief, you can trace back to the shamanism or pagan belief back, 4,000 years ago. It's all start from, I don't know what it means. I don't know why it caused thunder. I don't know why it rains. I don't know why the stars are moving this way. So many sages, many people were trying to give explanation to these phenomena. And because of that, it became later on formulation of different teachings. Until some of them will be able to let the mind come to stillness, attaining clarity, attaining these stages of eyes or seeings, and realize even glimpse of the truth, which is more than enough. Which actually interesting, that's why at least in the main religions, you will notice that the very, very similarities of our religion, no matter it talks about how in terms of morals or ethics, depends on the severity of them, but in general, you see that kindness, compassion, patience, generosities, all of these things share in commons across the board because they are able to reach the same state of the answer or the Dhamma. And in that retrospective, it's also make us be very refreshing in the way that we have the capability to realize that Dhamma as well. It is within each and everyone. And that's why the great master, Luang Pu, Primal Contemporary, he wanted us to be able to attain these Dhammacakkappavattanasutta ourselves, so we can prove what the Buddha has enlightened. We can see what the Buddha has seen. And that realization will allow us to what? To be calm. So right now, we are not calm because we are driven by desire. We are driven by defilements. So we are struggling, trying to get something because we don't know. We don't know what we should get. So we try to get everything. But when we realize, oh, that's not really significant, I can let that go. I can invest my time and attention with that path, which leads to the true realization. So that's how important it is by just this part. So even though it's just a few passages, but it's very profound. Jnana karani, or knowledge. So from seeing to realize this knowledge. What are these jhana? They are 9 vipassana jhana. These, of course, when we explain into words, it sounds very simple, something that rise and fall, something that come to about to existence and degrade until it's coming to expirations. And this is terrifying because of all this. This body is not really something that we should hold on to because it's gonna disappear one day. And disadvantage is actually to realize that holding on to these forms, bodies and objects and all that is just for realization. It doesn't lead to anything. So it still has this disadvantage. So this passion, which means this actually doesn't really bring true happiness. So it's weariness to holding on to the rise and fall of the object that still rise and fall. And that's why it leads to desire for deliverance. I don't care about all this anymore. I don't really want to seek holding on to these matters and forms any longer. And then they come into reflective contemplation or being able to examine or reflecting on the true properties of existence, how everything come to impermanent, always changing and beyond the control, until finally be able to be equanimity with all the formations and all forms, until the last one, finding able to realize the Four Noble Truth. So that's actually what jhana is like. Right now, we are trying to understand this intellectually. I can keep reminding myself that, okay, everything that has an existence, my body, people that I love, the whole building, the whole world is here, but it will be gone one day. So because of that, it shouldn't hold on. It doesn't have the advantage to be together, to be forever. All of this is what I can keep telling myself intellectually. And this is actually a trap. Because many times, a lot of practitioners and a lot of people who practicing Dhamma fall into that mistake. Buddha also explained, not here, of course, but 3 levels of panya or wisdom or intelligence. The 3 levels of wisdom, starting from the first one, Sutta Maya Panya, which is the one that we use a lot. Wisdom from study. Like right now, you're listening to me, or you're reading the passage on the screen, or you're hearing someone talking about it. It actually means the knowledge that you obtain from external source. Could be some book, some person explained it to you. That's actually the first level of wisdom. Number 2 is the wisdom from reflection, logic, thinking, and contemplation. It's actually starting from either you make an observation of what is around you or analyze or contemplate on what you have heard before, become your own convictions of knowledge. And these tools are what we rely on a lot. So the whole thing that I was just, let's say I keep trying to myself. Everything rise and fall, but nothing is permanent. I should be holding on to. I can keep reminding myself like that, but it's still here. It's different from realization when it's really embedded, like I'm awakening to that, that's what it is. And that is called Bhavanamaya Panya. We tend to think that is actually when we close the eyes and meditate and let this, realization come. But the word bhavana means development of mental concentration. So when the mind is concentrated, what it brings is clarity. And because of the clarity, it leads to that insight. Lumpata Tashivo always explained that this one into different way. He said, wisdom from inner light. Because of the inner brightness, allow us to see, for example, the rise and fall of all beings. Right now, I can tell myself, but up until I reach the state of Tipachakku, divine eye, to see, oh, my dog was that guy in the past life. That person came from that dog in the past life. That rise and fall that I witness is completely different from what I keep telling myself. And that's why Jnana Karani or insight is not just the intellectual understanding that we tell ourselves, but is what we discover that emerged to the clarity and brightness of the mind. And that's why when that brings to ties of knowledge, I see it. And that's why, I shouldn't be hold on to any of this. Struggling for this thing is useless. And that make him feel calm. And that's why called peace and calmness come from, I don't have to struggle with all that. This is not the tangible. And that's why let's go for the direct knowledge, the true knowledge, and leads to awakening and cleanse up the defilements. So this is within just one passage, how everything is really condensed. And here is really remarkable. So, and then the Buddha said, because of what is middle way that I have realized, it producing insight, he explained this a bit more second times, that the difference is here. The first thing he said, I have realized this, is opened my eye to his knowledge. And this time he said, because of the middle way that I have realized, it producing insight, knowledge, calmness, direct knowledge, and self-awakenings and liberations. And that's to open this path, ayameva ariyo attankiko mako. Precisely, in order to open this path, they are the Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path lies on the foundations of the whole Four Noble Truth, and it's actually mentioned just up here at first. Later on, it was explained later. Remember that at this part, the Buddha did not mention Four Noble Truth as it is yet. I know that a lot of you have learned Buddhism before, and you have learned about the Four Noble Truth. But in the whole situation, when this sutra was delivered, he didn't start by explaining the dukkha or the sufferings. He explained the middle part first. What is considered as a middle part? What is it? The Noble Eightfold Path is the middle part. What is the middle part? Realize by the Buddha that produce insight, knowledge, calmness, direct knowledge, self-awakening, and liberation. Precisely, this Eightfold Path produces all that. And that all start from the right view, samadhi, the right perspective, the right view, the right theory. That actually were very condensed right here. Just because, before the Buddha goes down to open up their eye, he explained these Eightfold Paths. So all these group of 5 monks open the same seeing, the same knowledge, before he further elaborate on the Four Noble Truths. You open up the eye first, because through the Eightfold Path, insight and knowledge will come. Lumpata Tachiwo, my master, always trying his best, trying to find the way to practice the Eightfold Path in the daily life. The training that he's designed from different methods, coming down to this one, how to design, how that each and every moment of our life, we can precisely practice this Eightfold Path. Because this will end up what? Insight and knowledge. And samadhi really lies in the first one of all. Samadhi, or the right view, right perspective, is right at the top of it. Of course, there's a part in the text that we talk about the right view comprised of 10 things. The first 4 is actually can be divided in 2 groups, 4 and 6. If you look at the first 4, it talks about generosity has benefit. There's a good result in giving. There's a benefits from doing charity. The benefits in showing respect or venerate. And when do good, receive good result or outcome. So the first 4 of the right view talks about one single thing. The affirmation on the importance of karma, that if we want something positive to happen, keep up with good deeds. That is to be installed in our right view. Whatever it was, starting from here, whatever it is, keep up with the good things. So the first 2, the difference is giving could be just giving to somebody, giving for something I have excessive, I have a lot, I want to give it out. Charity is different. Charity talks about, seeing pain and sufferings of others, that even though I am in pain as well, but somebody else needed more, and out of that sympathy, I want to help out, become charity. The benefit of veneration is actually interesting to be put right there because of this aspect of respect. First of all, the word respect in Buddhism explained as to be able to see positive features or properties in other people, places, situation, and object, so that we can absorb it. It's not just doing this, because this is an act of showing respect. I may not feel respect at heart, but I can doing this to everybody. But the term respect actually means I notice something positive, a positive feature or properties on a person that I can learn about. So veneration or respect is actually for us to find good models, good teachers, something that we can learn from. We can open our eyes and set the direction so that we keep us at first in number 4, understanding and the law of karma. And that's why the first 4 normally can be explained generally and universally to people across the board, regardless of the belief or religion, because this is universal truth that anyone can understand. If you do something good, all of this, it brings result. The other 6 started to step up. There's this present world, which means there's a reason for what is going on right now. Why am I here? Is because there's a cause from the past. And that leads to number 6, which means the next world or the next life depends on what convictions of my present lifetime, including the past. So this refers to what? That is something more than just right now. What happened right now is convictions of the accumulated result from the past. And what will happen in the future is a convictions of everything that will formulate and continue to give effect later in the future. And leads to number 7 and 8. Mother and father are significant figures, not just to tending support. Meaning that if when I die, only 2 things I take with me. The first one is, of course, the karmic energy, which we talk about in the first 6. But the second one is my habit, my characters. What I have trained in this lifetime, I carry this habit, this character, this mentality into next life. So if I go into the next life and I have good environment, which are the first teachers, mother and father. If I have very good parenting, that will be good environment that will enhance what I have cultivated in past life. On the other hand, if I have not cultivated in other lifetime, but I am still being born in a good family, I still have a better chance to be better because good figure role model right there, especially with the veneration of respect. But if I don't have good parenting and coming from a very, very terrible characters in the past, it will even worse, right? So that's why the right view is right here. Not just to remind ourselves the importance that we should show our gratitude towards our parenting, but that's of course to, for those of you who already do this job as a parents, mother and father, your job is not just to teach your kid to grow up, but how that you can make sure that they still embed this good character to the next life. Number 9, they are unseen worlds of beings. In the text, it's actually spontaneous born being exist. In other words, they are all these things that we call spirit, celestial being, hell's animal, hungry ghosts, all these spontaneous born being that came as a result of karma from different types to affirm the realization that they are an existence of other realms or life after death, which is the affirmations of this law of karma. 2, the last one, they are enlightened person who are able to eliminate defilements completely, which means that keep up with all this practice. You see all of this, talk about the very same thing, how important your action is, how important your endeavor, your practice really is. Because all of this aim for one thing, so that one day the goal is right here. Enlightened person, that is the end goal, that is the end game. How I can reach there? 1 to 9. As my perspective, as my theory, as my view, that through my own endeavor of the practice of good deeds, I will be able to reach this state. So, that is actually what I wanted to leave, because we are at the top of the hours for today's. Okay, I have to stop sharing. Okay, so this is the first part of the Dhammacakkappavattanasutta for today. So the next part, we will recite the Dhamma. Now that we have learned the significance of the meanings of the text, so that we can be more appreciative when we recite the chanting. So the next part, we're going to be reciting the chanting together, so that we show our homage to Luang Por Thammashiel on his occasion at the first birthday anniversary. And after, we will do a short meditation to offer our merit as a way to show our gratitude. So, allow me to invite you to recite the chanting together.
Evamme sutang ekang samayang bhakava paranasiyang viharati isipatane mikhathaye tatrako bhakava pancavakiye bhikkhu amante sithave me bhikkhave anta papashite nanase vita payo jayang kame sukama sukhalika nuyo kohino kamo potu shaniko anariyo anatasanito yo jayang arakilamathanu ko anariyo anatasanhito ete te bhikkhave upo ante anupakhama machima patipatha tathakatena apisambuddha jagukaraniya karani upasamaya apinyaya sampodhaya nibbānāya samvātatikattamā jasa bhikkhave machima patipatha tathakatena apisambuddha jagukaraniya nakarani upasamaya apinyaya sampodhaya nibbānāya samvātati ayameva ariyo athankiko makho sayati thang sammadhiti samma sankappo samma vaca samma kammanto samma ชีวสัมมาวายาโมสัมมาสติสัมมาสมาธิอายังโคสัพพิขเวมัชฌิมาปฏิปทาตถาคเตนะอภิสัมพุทธาจักขุกรณีญาณกรณีอุปสมัยยะอภิญญายสัมพุทธายนิพพานายสังวาตติอิทังโขปนะภิกขเวทุกขังอริยสัจจังชาติปิทุกขาชราปิทุกขามรณะปิทุกขังโสกปริเทวทุกขโทมนัสสุปายาสาปิทุกขาอาปิเยหิสัมปโยโคทุกโขปิเยหิวิปปโยโคทุกโขยามปิชังนลปฏิตามปิทุกขังสังขิตเตนะปัญจุปาทานาขันธาทุกขาอิทังโขปนะภิกขเวทุกขสมุทัยโยอริยสัจจังญายังตัณหาปุโนภวิกานันทิราคะสหคตาตาตระตาตราปินันทินิสัยยทิตังกามตัณหาภวตัณหาวิภวตัณหาอิทังโขปนะภิกขเวทุกขนิโรธอริยสัจจังโยตัสสะเยวตัณหายะเสสวิราคนิโรธจาโคปฏินิสักโคมุติอนาลโยอิทังโขปนะภิกขเวทุกขนิโรธคามินีปฏิปทาอริยสัจจังอยังเมวะอริโยอาทังคิโกมาโคสัยยทิทังสัมมาทิฏฐิสัมมาสังกัปปะสัมมาวาจาสัมมากัมมันโตสัมมาอาชีวสัมมาวายาโมสัมมาสติสัมมาสมาธิ อิทังทุกขังอริยสัจจันติเมภิกขเวปุเพอนันโนสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุงอุทธปาทิญาณังอุทธปาทิปัญญาอุทธปาทิวิชชาอุทธปาทิอาโลโกอุทธปาทิตังโขปนิทังทุกขังอริยสัจจังปริญญายันติเมภิกขเวปุเพอนันโนสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุงอุทธปาทิญาณังอุทธปาทิปัญญาอุทธปาทิวิชชาอุทธปาทิอาโลโกอุทธปาทิตังโขปนิทังทุกขังอริยสัจจังปริญญาตันติเมภิกขเวปุเพอนันโนสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุงอุทธปาทิญาณังอุทธปาทิปัญญาอุทธปาทิวิชชาอุทธปาทิอาโลโกอุทธปาทิอิทังทุกขสมุทัยโยอริยสัจจันติเมภิกขเวปุเพอนันโนสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุงอุทธปาทิญาณังอุทธปาทิปัญญาอุทธปาทิวิชชาอุทธปาทิอาโลโกอุทธปาทิตังโขปนิทังทุกขสมุทัยโยอริยสัจจังปหาตั พันติเมภิกขเวปุเพอนันโนสุเตสุธรรมเมสุจักขุงอุทธัปปาทิญาณังอุทธัปปาทิปัญญาอุทธัปปาทิวิชชาอุทธัปปาทิอาโลโกอุทธัปปาทิตังโฆปนิทังทุกขสมุทัยโยอริยสัจจังปะหีนันติเมภิกขเวปุเพอนันโนสุเตสุธรรมเมสุจักขุงอุทธัปปาทิญาณังอุทธัปปาทิปัญญาอุทธัปปาทิวิชชาอุทธัปปาทิอาโลโกอุทธัปปาทิอิทังทุกขนิโรธอริยสัจจันติเมภิกขเวปุเพอนันโนสุเตสุธรรมเมสุจักขุงอุทธัปปาทิญาณังอุทธัปปาทิปัญญาอุทธัปปาทิวิชชาอุทธัปปาทิอาโลโกอุทธัปปาทิตังโฆปนิทังทุกขนิโรธอริยสัจจังสัจฉิกาตาพันติเมภิกขเวปุเพอนันโนสุเตสุธรรมเมสุจักขุงอุทธัปปาทิญาณังอุทธัปปาทิปัญญาอุทธัปปาทิวิชชาอุทธัปปาทิอาโลโกอุทธัปปาทิตังโฆปนิทังทุกขนิโรธอริยสัจจังสัจฉิกตันติเมภิกขเวปุเพอนันโนสุเตสุธรรมเมสุจักขุงอุทธัปปาทิญาณังอุทธัปปาทิปัญญาอุทธัปปาทิวิชชาอุทธัปปาทิอาโลโกอุทธัปปาทิอิทังทุกขนิโรธคามินีปฏิปทาอริยสัจจันติเมภิกขเวปุเพอนันโนสุเตสุธรรมเมสุจักขุงอุทธัปปาทิญาณังอุทธัปปาทิปัญญาอุทธัปปาทิวิชชาอุทธัปปาทิอาโลโกอุทธัปปาทิตังโฆปนิทังทุกขนิโรธคามินีปฏิปทาอริยสัจจังภาเวตาพันติเมภิกขเวปุเพอนันโนสุเตสุธรรมเมสุจักขุงอุทธัปปาทิญาณังอุทธัปปาทิปัญญาอุทธัปปาทิวิชชาอุทธัปปาทิอาโลโกอุทธัปปาทิตังโฆปนิทังทุกขนิโรธคามินีปฏิปทาอริยสัจจังภาวิตันติเมภิกขเวปุเพอนันโนสุเตสุธรรมเมสุจักขุงอุทธัปปาทิญาณังอุทธัปปาทิปัญญาอุทธัปปาทิวิชชาอุทธัปปาทิอาโลโกอุทธัปปาทิยาวกีวันจะเมภิกขเวอิเมสุจตุสุอริยสัจเจสุเอวันติปริวัตตังภวาทสาการังยถาภูตังญาณทัสสนังนสุวิสุทธังอโหสิเนวตาวาหังภิกขเวสเทวเกโลเกสมาระเกสพรหมเกสสมณพรหมนิยาปชายสเทวมนุสายอนุตตรังสัมมาสัมโพธิงอภิสัมพุทโธปัจจัญญาสิงยโตจะโคเมภิกขเวอิเมสุจตุสุอริยสัจเจสุเอวันติปริวัตตังทวาทสาการังยถาภูตังญาณทัสสนังสุวิสุทธังอโหสิอัฏฐาหังภิกขเวสเทวเกโลเกสมาระเกสพรหมเกสสมณพราหมณิยาปชายสเทวมนุสายอนุตตรังสัมมาสัมโพธิงอ ภิสัมพุทโธปัจจัญญาสิงญาณัญจปนเมธาสนังอุตตปาทิอากุปาเมวิมุตติอายมันติมาชาตินาทิธานิปุนาภวติอิธรรมโวจะภควาอาตมนาปัญจวัคคียาภิกขุภควโตภาสิตังอภินันทุงอิมัสมิงจะปนวัยยากรณาสมิงพัญญมาเนอายาสมโตโกนทัญญาสวิรชังวีตมลังธรรมจักขุงอุทปาทิยังกินจิสมุทัยธรรมังสัพพันตังนิโรธธรรมันติปวาติเตจะภควตาธรรมจักเกภูมิมาเทวาสัทธมนุสาเวสุงเอตัมภควตาภารานสิยังอิสิปตเนมิคทาเยอนุตตรังธรรมจักกังปวัติตังอาปฏิวัติยังสมเนนวาพระมเนนวาเทเวนวามาเรนวาพระมุนาวาเกณจิวาโลกัสมินอุมมานังเอวานังสัทธังสุตวาจาตุหาราชิกาเทวาสัทธมนุสาเวสุงจาตุหาราชิกานังเทวานังสัทธังสุตวาตาวติงสาเทวาสัทธมนุสาเวสุงตาวติงสานังเทวานังสัทธังสุตวายามาเทวาสัทธมนุสาเวสุงยามานังเทวานังสัทธังสุตวาตุสิตาเทวาสัทธมนุสาเวสุงตุสิตานังเทวานังสัทธังสุตวานิมมานรติเทวาสัทธมนุสาเวสุงนิมมานรตินังเทวานังสัทธังสุตวาปรนิมมิตวสวัตติเทวาสัทธมนุสาเวสุงปรนิมมิตวสวัตตินังเทวานังสัทธังสุตวาพระมกายิกาเทวาสัทธมนุสาเวสุงเอตัมภควตาภารานสิยังอิสิปตเนมิคทาเยอนุตตรังธรรมจักกังปวัติตังอาปฏิวัติยังสมเนนวาพระมเนนวาเทเวนวามาเรนวาพระมุนาวาเกณจิวาโลกัสมินติอิติหะเตนะคะเนนะเตนะโมโหเตนะยาวะพระมโลกาสัตโตอาภูคาชิอายัญจะทัสสะหาสีโลกธาตุสังกัมปิสัมปะกัมปิสัมปเวทิอาปมาโนจะโอลาโรโอภาโสโลเกปาตุระโหสิอติกัมเมวะเทวานังเทวานุภาวังอัตถโคภควาอุทานังอุทาเนสิอัญญาสิวัตโพโกนทัญโยอัญญาสิวัตโพโกนทัญโยติอิติหิทังอายะสัมมโตโกนทัญญาสอัญญาโกนทัญโยตเววนามังอาโหสิ
So now that we have completed the chanting of the first sutta of the Buddha, let us close the eyes and bring our mind back to the center of the body. Let us recollect all of the good deeds that we have come to commit together today, from evening chanting, meditative practice, listening to the Dhamma, and what we just did, the recitation of the first sutta. Recall all these good deeds until our mind is filled with joy, bliss. The feeling of punya or merit is very relieving, joyful. Allow all of these accumulate punya or merit to slowly come together at the center of yourself. Allow it to slowly formulate into a bright, clear merit sphere that looks similar to a bright, shining sun. The radiation of the light is soothing, joyful, blissful, with a feeling of the good deeds. Let the mind touch in the middle of the good deeds, the merit sphere. Allow it to expand. Allow it to grow. The warm, bright light slowly radiate in all directions. It fills your whole space. It reaches the horizon. The more we recollect our good deeds, the more it expands, the more joyful you will be. So let's place your attention so gently at the center of the sphere. Allow it to expand. On this occasion, we have come together to learn about the Dhamma and the teachings of the Buddha in the occasion of the Visa, and also to dedicate this merit to our teacher, Dhammacakkappavattanasutta. Reached the 81st birthday anniversary. So let us share, offer this merit as a token of respect and gratitude, so that may Long Po Tamashayo be in good health, live long, so that he continue to provide us with knowledge and opportunity to pursue perfections, to grow on the path of the Dhamma, and finally be able to reach our realization. So let's, as collectively, offer to our dear Luang Por Tamashayo. Sapphe Buddha Prapata Paccheka Nanja Yang Palang Arahanta Nanja Te Se Narakang Kanta Misapaso Sappa Buddha Nupavena Sappa Dhamma Nupavena Sappa Sankha Nupavena Sattha Soti Bhavantu Te. Let's pay respect to the Triple Gem all together. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Buddha Minato, the Buddha is our refuge. Soakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Dhammo Minato, the Dhamma is our refuge. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami. Saṅkho Minato, the Saṅkha is our refuge.
May I invite all the lay participants to pay respect to our teaching monk. Bow, bow, bow.
May all of your accumulated punya bestow upon each and every one of you with happiness, strength, and wisdom. May all of your wishes be reality. And whenever you practice meditation, may you easily find that path to the realization without any delay. And I offer my humble respect to all the senior monks present here.
I would like to express our deep gratitude to Venerable Pasura Tantamano for guiding us through the beginning of the Buddha's first sermon. We have learned about the historical context of this momentous occasion. Where does this teaching take place? Who are the first group of the students? When did it happen? And why did the Buddha choose these revolutionary principles? We have gained intensive insight into the Buddha's introduction of the middle way and the Four Noble Truths, and the first one of the Noble Eightfold Path, the right view. And what makes this discourse so remarkable is not just its historical significance, but its continuing relevance to our lives today. The middle way offers a balance to spiritual practice that avoids both excessive indulgence and extreme asceticism. To all participants, to all students, I'd like to encourage you to reflect on how the concept of middle way and the Four Noble Truths resonate with your own experience. Consider how the reality of the dukkha manifests in your life, and how the middle way might offer guidance in finding the balance. As a gentle reminder, tomorrow evening at 6:30 p.m. we begin our program as usual with evening chanting. Then at 7 p.m. Thailand time, we will continue our exploration of Dhammacakkappavattanasutta with English translations. And we continue to focus on the remaining Noble Eightfold Paths. So please join us. May the merit of learning and practicing the Dhamma of the Buddha bring peace to our hearts and all beings. May you all be blessed with the wisdom and wealth, good health, happiness. May the light of Dhammakaya shine within you. Nibbana Pacayo Hotu. Thank you so much for joining our program today. See you tomorrow and good night.